Before formally starting with the topic, I would like to give a brief background of why do we study temple architecture, why the study of temples is required in the study of Indian history. The question is very fundamental, and most of the time we fail to understand why are we studying the temples. You see, there is a term that we study in history. It is called temple urbanization. Apart from temple urbanization, apart from the phenomena of temple urbanization in medieval India, ancient India, we study these controversies. We often hear these controversies about the looting of temples by the medieval rulers, how the temples were looted, how their wealth was, taken away and utilized for the creation of empires in West Asia and Central Asia. How the rulers like Ghaznavids and the Gurids invaded the temples of India, and all they wanted was the wealth of the temples. So why was the temple the epicenter of loot? Why temples gained so much importance? That is the fundamental question before starting with the topic. To understand this, we need to come back at this term, which is the temple urbanization. Before starting temple urbanization, we need to basically understand urbanization. So urbanism in India started, back in the Indus Valley civilization, back during the Indus Valley civilization. That was called the period of first urbanization, as R.S. Sharma describes it. So he divides the periods of urbanizations into three parts in India. So the IVC was the period of first urbanization. The 600 BC, the start of 600 BC with the coming up of Buddhism, Jainism, and the Mahajanpadas, witnessed the period of second urbanization. And then again, post-Gupta period, the urban centers of India went under a decline. All of a sudden, Patliputra went for a decline. And the importance of Patliputra declined, and it was replaced by places like Kannauj, places like Ujjain, and later on, of course, replaced by Delhi. So after the decline of Gupta Empire, the period of second urbanization also ended, and there was a crisis in the urbanization in the urban centers of India, as it is also depicted by the declining nature of trade, declining number of exchanges, and the declining evidences of coins which were traded. There was a time when Roman coins used to flood Indian markets, and during this period of post-Gupta time period, there was decline in trade, and therefore there was decline in the presence of coins and coinage. After the decline of second urbanization, the third urbanization started in India when the Turks invaded India, when there was establishment of Delhi Sultanate, and when there was establishment of the city called Mehrauli, and from there Delhi gains its importance. So India has undergone phases of urbanization. Anyway, this is not the topic today. Urbanization may start in so many different ways, but urbanization may also start with the establishment of a temple. The point that we are studying temple architecture today is just because there was a phenomenon called temple urbanization in ancient India, due to which temples got a lot of importance. And that importance was the prime reason why the invaders, why the rulers of different dynasties targeted the temples of enemy territory, right? Because it contained a lot of power. It was a representation of political power of that region. If I am a ruler and I want to defeat the ruler who is beside me, in order to attempt a defeat upon him, I will first capture the temples and the religious centers that his territory has. Because I know the local people, the exercise of power was done basically through these religious centers. The temples were not only religious centers, the temples were also political centers. The temples were also used to be economic centers. The panchayat meetings were held at the temples. The priests of the temples had the rights to collect taxes from the vicinity areas, right? So all these powers included. In fact, in most of the time period of ancient India, temples used to have the sculptures of deities along with the sculptures of the king of that region. For example, if I'm a king of a region called A, I will have my sculpture or my statue placed in the central temple of my territory along with the central deity of that temple. Let's say with Vishnu or with Shiva, etc. Right? So temples used to be, centralized, in the form of political control, in the form of economic control, in the form of religious and cultural control also. So if I have to defeat someone, capturing the temples, capturing the religious centers, capturing these centers of economic and political powers are the prime motive of any invader, of any king, right? Therefore, temples were important. And with the coming up of temples, for the first time after Gupta period, when temples started appearing in India, due to this immense power that temples had got, the vicinity areas around the temples started developing, because temples were usually placed, the mighty temples were usually constructed at the places which used to be the centers of trade, centers of urban power. So there was continuous influx and outflux of different kinds of people. There was continuous influx and outflux of different kinds of cultures. There was continuous amalgamation of different cultures at these temples. Therefore, urban centers slowly started developing around these temples, and therefore the phenomena of temple urbanization started. This was very peculiar in South India, especially during the times of Cholas. In South India, temple urbanization started gaining momentum. Before this, phenomena of temple urbanization as seen in India, it was seen during the times of Mesopotamian culture. In Mesopotamia, also temples used to be there, and temple urbanization was a common phenomena there. Anyway, that is not the topic today. So having understood why are we studying the temples, let's come to the temple architecture.